Welcome to another live episode of the Wisco Fanatic Show, where we discuss the Packers, Bucks, Brewers, Badgers football, and basketball from an optimistic perspective. Wisco Fanatics is brought to you by Cardboard Legacy, Wisconsin's most complete sports card shop. Buy, sell, grade, and consign all at their location in Oshkosh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Wisco Fanatics Wednesday. Jake and I are back. If you are interested in checking it out, I know the Brewers lost last night, but Jake and I did do a watch party for last night's game. That is going to be our Patreon offering going forward, is going to be 2 watch parties per month. Definitely check out the one that we did yesterday for the Brewers and Padres. Even just check out the pregame show. That's that's going to be something that we do for every time we do a watch party. And yesterday's pregame show, in our opinion, because that's our work, obviously, was really awesome. We had a lot of really great statistics, and it's really fun being able to bring even more of a zoomed-in approach versus the weekly recap type show that you get on Wednesdays, which is always going to be here. That's not going anywhere. But the watch party aspect of it, with us doing the pregame show, allows us to zoom in even a little bit further and get a little bit more game specific with a pregame show, which was a lot of fun to do. And yeah, doing that going forward, and hopefully as we continue to grow and more people are subscribing to that, we can do more with it, and then we can do more of those types of pregame shows and watch parties and things like that. So definitely check that out, and if you enjoy it, subscribe to us on Patreon. But today we're back, and we have 3 Milwaukee Bucks regular season games to go over. Probably going to be pretty quick on those recaps, just because their significance it pales in comparison to what is coming up, which is obviously the beginning of the playoffs. So we can start with the Bucks and Magic home game. But Jake, what stood out to you from that first Bucks and Magic game?
Well, obviously, the night before we played the Celtics, so this was a back-to-back. So we played on Tuesday. We ended up playing last Wednesday. And the thing that stood out to me was that the Bucks played great defense 2 nights in a row, held the Magic under 100 points. They were rotating on defense. They cared. This is the Milwaukee Bucks team that we're expecting to get into the playoffs, right? And, we'll get into some other stuff when we talk about these other games, but this is the focus that's going to be necessary, especially facing a Pacers team that can really get up and down. They play with high pace, as they should, live up to the name, right? But, the Milwaukee Bucks played really good defense without Giannis. Obviously, we got the news. Everybody was taking a deep breath, a sigh of relief as the news came out with Giannis. And, so it was a good game. I don't really have much to say about these games, because after they beat the Celtics, I kind of knew what their destiny was. It was either the 2 or 3 seed. So with that being said, Bobby Portis played great in the first half. Just want to give him a shout out. Chris Middleton played good in this one as well. Damian Lillard at 29. So, it was just a good final home game for the Bucks.
Yeah, and it was good to see Patrick Beverley also. He was in the starting lineup again after starting against the Celtics as well, in place of Malik Beasley. Patrick Beverley, between the Celtics game and this game against the Magic at home, was 7 for 11 on threes. That's 63.6%. It's obviously not sustainable, right, but it's good to see Patrick Beverley, with his wrist injury, still being able to hit threes and be able to do it at a high rate. You already mentioned Bobby Portis. Him and Paolo Banchero kind of went at it for a little while, which was really fun to watch.
It did.
Offensively, Bobby Portis went 5 for 8 and 1 for 1 on threes against Paolo Banchero. He scored 11 points and had an assist. And then defensively, Paolo also scored 11 points on Bobby Portis, and he had 2 assists. So it was really fun to actually just watch those 2 go head-to-head. Now, the other couple things that I wanted to mention here is mainly Jay Crowder, because Paolo did not have as fun of a day going against Jay Crowder.
No.
Jay Crowder, when guarding Paolo Banchero shot 0 for 4 from the field. So Jay Crowder did a really good job against Paolo. Should the Bucks end up matching up with the Magic at any point in the playoffs, probably going to see a lot of Jay Crowder on Paolo Banchero. But obviously, it's a lot needs to happen to get to that point. Now, the other thing that Jay Crowder did was he gave 14 points off the bench, which is going to be really, really big if he's able to do that in the playoffs as well. As far as this game goes, fundamental failures, only 4 missed free throws, only allowed 6 second chance points to the Magic. That's huge. Did have 15 points off turnovers allowed, which is a little high, but overall for a game being at 25 fundamental failure points is super low. And I agree with you on the defense as well. 1 minute and 44 seconds into the game, the Bucks had already forced a shot clock violation against the Magic. So I agree with you on this too, that he and the Bucks in general, their defense, this is what I'm looking to see from the playoffs.
You want to go to the comments real quick?
Yeah, we can go to James. James said Jay Crowder has been the weirdest success story I've ever seen. I don't know if he's good or if he finds himself on good teams. I mean, good teams got to want you because they know you present value.
Yeah.
So looking at it, I think it's a little bit of both, but good teams don't generally want bad players.
So I can return the message to you, Tyler. Get out of my head. I agree. I think that it's both. Obviously, Jay Crowder is a good player, and we've talked about this before. Jay Crowder has underrated basketball IQ on both ends of the court. He's a good passer. He understands when to take the shot. He actually had one against the Magic, as we're talking about this Magic game, where he moved the ball, and the ball got passed again. There was a shot clock violation, and he just goes, damn, and he slams his hands like this, and he like taps himself, and he raises his finger, and it's like, that's the things where he realizes like I was supposed to take that shot because he's creating an open shot for him, right? So Jay Crowder he's a good player. He's one of those glue guys, as they like to call. In my opinion, he would be our version of Al Horford for James. Al Horford's a glue guy for the Celtics. Jay Crowder's kind of that for the Bucks. He allows us to play big, small. He allows us to play a lot with a lot of different lineups.
The other thing, and I'll say with Jay Crowder, he's also a really great cutter.
Yeah.
Like when guys are driving to the basket, he's really great at coming from the dunker area and just popping up to the block and just getting, layups basically.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be a superstar, James, but he's a good player.
Yeah, James is a Celtics fan. He said, I remember when he was on the Celtics, I absolutely loved his play. It was just so weird. He went to the Eastern Conference Finals with him. It's just hard to gauge. And I mean, it's not an accident that he went to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics and then went to the finals with the Heat and then went to the finals with the Suns. It's not an accident that he's been in those situations.
And then in 2024, he went to the finals with the Bucks. I mean, sorry.
Yeah, you got the script over there or what?
Hey, I can't tell nothing. I'm just saying.
All right, let's go to the Bucks and the Thunder game. This one, I think people were really putting way too much importance on this.
Okay, so I'm going to start with something that I said to you is the Thunder were clearly pissed off that they got spanked in Milwaukee. And you could tell right away from the tip. Yeah, I agree with Michael. Sorry, I was reading a comment. Michael said, Crowder, in my eyes, one of our dogs, along with Bev and Bobby, and that's absolutely true. He's one of the tough guys on our team.
Yep.
So going back to this Thunder game, the Thunder were clearly trying to make a statement like that was not the team that we are. We do not want to be remembered by Milwaukee Bucks fans and this Milwaukee Bucks team that this is the Thunder of 2024, right? So they were trying to go at it. Really, really high scoring first quarter. Bobby was going crazy. Lou Dort was actually playing pretty well for the Thunder, in my opinion. But he is a good player. But the Thunder they're a good young team, and they're going to play better at home. That is what it is. The Bucks have struggled on the road this year as well, so you kind of add those two things together without Giannis, Dame not having the best game, and that's what you get. I mean, it was good I liked that he had the young guys play in the second half, get some good run, and he actually commented on that. He was like, since I've got here, I haven't got to see a lot of these guys in game action, so it was good to see them in game action.
Damian Lillard was out for this game as well.
I'm sorry. I was thinking ahead to the Magic game. I apologize.
Okay. You're good. So I wanted to look at this with obviously Giannis being out, AJ Green also out, and then obviously Damian Lillard that I just mentioned as well. Looking at some of the minutes that the Bucks played. So in my eyes, the Bucks almost kind of view this as like a tune-up game, and similarly with the last game against the Magic as well. But I mean, you look at it, obviously Bobby didn't have his best game, but Chris Middleton played 23 minutes. Pat Connaughton played 16 minutes. Brook Lopez played 23 and a half minutes. Bobby Portis played a little over 21 minutes. Jay Crowder and Patrick Beverley played 24 minutes. This game really felt like guys, get your work in for the day, and then let the young guys come in. It was like an exhibition game, is how it felt to me.
I agree with that. I mean, that's how I emotionally took it anyways.
Right.
Like I said, after the Celtics game and, the back-to-back wins, coupling that with the Magic win on Wednesday, I was kind of like, we're the 2 or 3 seed. I really didn't think that they would fall below the Cavs, personally. I kind of thought that the Cavs were doing what everybody was speculating the Bucks were doing, where they were trying to avoid certain opponents. So, and obviously that looked that way on Sunday.
So we can just move into the Sunday game right away and the road game against the Magic. Now, I just want to say this. I actually posed this question to you and asked if you thought that the Bucks were, potentially okay with, ending up in the 3 seed so that they know who they would face right away, as opposed to having to wait for the results of the play-in game.
Yeah.
And your answer was no, and I agreed with you, but I think it wasn't necessarily that the Bucks were trying to end up with the 3 seed, but I think they were at peace if they were going to end up with the 3 seed. Because as we knew that even after the Bucks lost, there were still scenarios where the Bucks could have ended up with a 2 seed if the Knicks and Cavs had both lost. The Cavs lost, and then the Knicks went into overtime with the Bulls. So I don't think it's that the Bucks were trying to get the 3 seed, like a lot of people were trying to act like they were. But I think they were at peace with it if they were to end up with the 3 seed.
Yeah, I really personally don't think they cared. I don't think they would have cared if they were the 4 seed. I think they would have been perfectly fine playing the Magic in the first round. They would have been at peace with that too. See, the thing is, you look at this home record, you look at this road record. I'm not going to give that because I'm going to get into that in a second. But I will say they know that no matter what their home and road record was in the regular season, if their main goal is to get healthy, right? And they're still fighting that to this very minute.
Agreed.
If they have a healthy Dame, Giannis, and Chris Middleton, I'm sorry, they feel good about their chances. I don't care what the other starting 5 is. And I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to win every single game with those guys in the lineup, because they're not. They're going to lose games. But they feel good if they're healthy going into any situation. They'll say any arena, any start time, it doesn't matter. If we have these 3 horses, you give me a Bobby, you give me a Brooke, you give me a Beasley, a Pat, they feel good about that. They don't care about seeding. And, they were competitive for a little bit, but there was a big run by the Magic in this game, a 19-6 run, I believe it was.
Yep.
And, it was what it was. The Magic are in a different situation than the Bucks, and the fans have to realize that. And the thing that I want to remind people is the real fans. No, not the bandwagon ones that came over when we got a 6'11" Greek god, okay? The real fans.
Or when he turned good, actually, not even when they first got him.
Yeah, in 2017. You're right. I should have said that.
When he won Most Improved.
All the people that, want to complain about everything, you have to realize where we've come from, okay? Milwaukee was never supposed to be this.
Yeah.
Milwaukee was never supposed to be a favorite. Yep. We were never supposed to have Giannis
or
Dame.
Yeah.
We were never supposed to have that.
Nope.
Growing up as a kid, that's why this happened, man. It's because we didn't hear about our team enough. Even though we had a number 1 overall pick, all they talked about was Chris Paul going to the Hornets. They didn't talk about Bogut that much. They would mention him real quick. Bogut was number 1 pick. Chris Paul ends up in New Orleans. Man, this could be
Darren Williams. Wow. He's going to end up in Utah.
So, and those aren't really big cities either, but we were always an afterthought. So I just want people to remember where we've come from before you start complaining. Yeah. And I told this one last thing, but before I give you the floor. We always want reminders of, I wish we knew we were in the good old days before we're away from the good old days. This is your reminder that these are the good old days.
Yeah.
We're going to look back on this Bucks era and be like, man, I really wish I would have appreciated this more, because this is fun. Mm-hmm. Having Brook Lopez being second in the league every single year, like, that is just a standard he has set in blocks. That's not normal, okay?
Especially at 35.
Portis, right? Bobby Portis being the best 6th man in the year, like almost every year, and being looked over and getting the crowd hyped up. That's not normal, okay? Giannis, Dame, having a guy like Chris who could be a 3rd option and average 19, 6, and 6 is not normal.
Dude, Chris
These are the good old
Middleton.
days, people. Appreciate them.
It's one of those things where people are going to look back and they're going to be like, man, Chris Middleton was really good. Like the same way that they look back at like Sidney Moncrief, like how important he is as far as like Bucks history is concerned. Like he's legit going to be top 3 in most of Milwaukee Bucks categories. James said, I view making the playoffs differently than most people. To me, if you can fight for the 1 seed, go for it. Then try to go for the 2 or 3, then the 4. After that, just try to make the playoffs and avoid play-in. After that, just try to get to it. And yeah, I mean the Bucks. People are freaking out as if the Bucks had fallen into the play-in. People said the Bucks deserved to be in the play-in or didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs after they were losing, even though they were still in the 2 seed throughout all of that. There were a couple of moments after Doc took over, and then obviously at the very end of the season where they ended up in the 3 seed, where they won the championship from. And people are freaking out like they fell into the play-in. They're at the 3 seed. They're literally in the same seed that they were the year they won the championship. And people are freaking out.
I want it. When we get to the Pacers, I got
some. Okay. All right.
Wait.
Michael, I'm going to save your comment also for when we get to the Pacers as well. And welcome back, Brett. So my quick things on the road Magic game. Brook Lopez, a couple blocks early in the game. Bucks just missing a couple close shots, but maintaining their lead. You mentioned the big run by the Magic, then the third quarter. Chris got going a little bit offensively. The Bucks just weren't getting enough stops and getting into transition. And that's pretty much what became of the game. Looking at the Bucks being 7 for 27 on threes is pretty slow. Slow day for the 3-point shooting, which is 26%. Hopefully that's one of those things where it's like they got the misses out of their system and they're going to be ready to go for the playoffs. The Bucks were 21 of 23 on free throws, which is really encouraging. And then 17 turnovers is just way too high. And then I'm going to do something out of the norm here. I'm going to give credit to an opponent. Jonathan Isaac was very disruptive.
Bro, Jonathan Isaac is a good player when
he's an awesome player. He's had really, really rough go with injuries, but he is a very, very good basketball player.
Yes. Well, and man, him on Spider is going to be It's going to be that's going to be fun to watch, man.
Yeah. Brett, I already know what Brett's mad about as we get into this this discussion with the playoffs. Brett said, I'm liking Malik Beasley getting a shot back as well. I think Dame will turn it around after a rough outing against the Magic. Isaac is a stellar defensive player, and it's just having him healthy. Absolutely. Jonathan Isaac, Jake and I both have a lot of respect for him. As far as the Pacers playoff series, we can get into this now. Michael asked, what are the chances that Giannis plays in the first game? The Bucks need to set the tone and thump him in the first game, seize the moment, and create momentum going forward in the playoffs. The Bucks are playing at home, so I think that is enough in itself to have momentum because Fiserv for a playoff game is going to be turned up.
Yeah, going to be fans there. Turn up, be loud, hit some threes, play some defense. They played the 5 seed, who's literally a higher seed than the Pacers, and whooped that ass at home without Giannis. I just want to remind people of
that. James is excited for his leprechaun, Peyton Pritchard. He's a pest. He is. He's similar to what TJ McConnell is for the Pacers.
I know, and I can't stand either of those guys.
I know. They're annoying. Like if we had them, we'd appreciate it. Yeah. But because they're on other teams, they're annoying. They're like Patrick Beverley, but
I agree.
Without so much of the attitude.
Yeah. Oh my God, I cannot stand either of those goddamn dudes.
As far as Michael's comments on Giannis playing game 1, I'm gonna say like 20%, and that's probably generous. It seems like Doc Rivers is holding out hope that he can play. Doc Rivers hasn't said that he's going to be out. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is we are still, 4 days away?
Yeah.
So there's still plenty of time to see what's going to happen with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to be like, oh, it's 0% chance. There's no chance that he plays because it's Giannis. So there's always a chance. But I'm going to say like 20%.
I'm around the 20%. I'm I'm a little bit more 10%. Honestly, I don't want to like say we don't need Giannis in this game because I mean I'm not gonna ever say that we don't need Giannis, but if you're gonna dream up a scenario, a team you've seen a lot, you're at home. It's the first playoff game for a lot of these young Pacers, especially their young stars. I mean, Siakam's going to help them a lot through that transition, and
Yep.
they have an experienced coach. But it's a different animal when you get into the playoffs, and the refs let a little bit of stuff go, a little bit extra pushing, a little bit extra grabbing, and that's where the Bucks, they're veterans. Everybody wants to call us old and slow, which I'm going to debunk in a second here, but that's where our veteran leadership is going to come into play. Now, Halliburton, bro, you fell down when Giannis gave you a little shoulder, man. You were talking a little ish. How's it gonna feel when Brooke Lopez and Bobby are doing that to you? You ain't gonna like that too much, okay? I'm just telling you, don't be all doing all this flapping because the Bucks, we're here now. It's time now.
It's not the regular season anymore.
These guys understand the situation at hand.
Yeah.
And the lights get a little bit brighter. So I'm just saying, game 1 in Milwaukee, I like our chances with or without Giannis.
Yep. And that's the thing is, like, obviously the Bucks are better with Giannis, but they are very capable of winning games without him, as they've done during the regular season. And now Brett's already getting ahead of it a little bit that the Bucks are going to have playoff Damian Lillard. And playoff Dame is the reason they traded for Damian Lillard. They didn't trade for Dame just for the regular season because they had a good regular season point guard.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what they needed. They didn't need a good regular season point guard. They need a good postseason point guard.
Yes, they do.
So I will get to Dame's playoff stats in a minute here. But Brett also brought up a really good point when the Bucks were in the Eastern Conference Finals and Giannis had the hyperextension of his knee. Chris Middleton, Brooke Lopez, and Bobby Portis all stepped up in that absence of Giannis. And Chris Middleton dropped, 38 in the first game that they played without Giannis?
He went crazy.
Dude, the highlights from that game are still so fun to watch. He went fucking nuts. And it's going to be fun to see maybe Dame and Chris both doing that to the Pacers to start this series.
True.
James, being a Celtics fan, is still commenting on our stuff and saying really great things, saying things like veteran leadership is important. They keep Al Horford around. That's the very next thing that he said. That's why I appreciate Al Horford. Say what you want about him being old, but I don't think anyone on the Celtics can match his IQ and experience, and it comes out at the weirdest times. But, I mean, it's absolutely factual. That's why they keep Al Horford around, even though he's 74 years old.
I feel bad saying this, James, but I hope you'll agree. If Jason Tatum had the basketball IQ, I'm not trying to talk shit. If he had the basketball IQ of Al Horford, he'd be the best player in the world. He does not step up in the big moments, and he does not take the shot when he needs to take the shot. He does not make the pass when he needs to make the pass. He still has a lot of learning to do, and people want to throw him into this top 5 all of a sudden because the Celtics have a lot of success. You guys have a great team. There's a lot of talent around them. The Celtics do a really good job of building rosters every single year.
Yeah, their front office is probably
the best in the NBA, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And especially having the wherewithal to take Brad Stevens from the bench to the front office.
Yeah.
And then find 2 more good coaches after that.
Yeah.
That's a good spot to be in, James.
Yeah. Hey, you're doing good. You picked a good one over there, buddy.
Yeah. All right. So we can get into the Bucks and the Pacers here. Now, where do you want to start with looking at the Bucks and the Pacers?
So I'm sure that we're thinking about this differently because the ways that I'm looking at this is so I looked up their last 82 games because I wanted to give people a season's worth and how close this matchup really is. Now, I understand that this doesn't consider this season and last season, but I have consideration with that with some other stats. But, the Bucks and Pacers have been a crazy close team the last 82 games. I wanted to give people a season's worth to really understand the magnitude of this, right? Kind of like zooming it out, right? Like we talk about all the time with basketball and baseball. So over the last 82 games, this is actually wild. The Bucks have won 40 and the Pacers have won 42. That's literally almost as close as you can get over the last 82 games. the win percentages are the same home and the road. The Pacers are 63 at home. Bucks are 61 at home. Away, the Bucks are 36.8 and the Pacers are 39%. So really, it doesn't really matter where you play. The percentages stay the same. The points per game is 106 for the Bucks to 105 for the Pacers. So I'm telling you, this Bucks Pacers team, they're similar in a lot of ways. Their fan bases are crazy. They love their teams. They're both built from the bottom up. You have to build the right way, right? And when you get into it, this is where I want to talk about this season. I don't know why people want to talk about how the Bucks are so old all the time. I don't know why that's a thing.
Because
everybody wants to talk about how the Pacers are like so fast and they do all this crazy stuff and like, oh my God, you see this
fast break.
Curtain? The Pacers were number 2 in pace this year at 101.75. The Bucks were 7th at 99.89. The old team almost played as fast as the super young, exciting team. So tell me where all this stuff about us being old is coming from. I really don't understand it, dude. I read all this stuff from this national media and it's doom and gloom all the time. And it's, this is where I get back to Pacers number 2 in pace. Please tell me that was intentional. And I even started the show, James, saying that the Pacers play at a fast pace. They have to live up to the name.
Yep.
The thing is, I want to go back to what I said. We were never supposed to be here. Nobody wants us to be here. I want the Bucks to use this as motivation. And I don't know if anybody got a chance to see it, but Dame called Stephen A. Smith Captain Planet. And I don't know why it's funny, but it's hilarious to me because I don't understand what he means by it.
Okay, so I want to go to Brett talking about the absence of Giannis against the Hawks. I have my games mixed up.
Yep.
So game 5 was Chris Middleton. He had 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 8 assists. Damn near a triple-double.
Yep.
Brook Lopez had 33 points and 7 rebounds in that game, as well as 4 blocks. Bobby Portis also had 22 points, and Drew Holiday had 25. And then Pat Connaughton had 9 points off the bench. The next game was game 6. That is the game that Chris Middleton went nuts. He had 32 points, 7 assists, 3 steals, and he was balling. Now looking at where the Bucks are now, yes, the first thing that people are going to say is, "Oh, the Pacers were 4-1 against the Bucks in the regular season. They only have to win 4 games to eliminate them now."
I was going to wait for you to bring that up, but go ahead.
That's the first thing that I wrote down. And James said he loves Stephen A. Smith. I don't know about it if I go that far. He doesn't have as bad of takes as some of the more weighty analysts that are on there. Yeah. Literally, when I say weighty, so the Pacers were 4-1 against the Bucks in the regular season. However, all 5 of those games were played when Adrian Griffin was the coach, and the Pacers are probably at the top of the list for why Adrian Griffin was fired. Because of the way that the Bucks played or lacked defense against the Pacers. The Pacers scored 122 points or more in all 5 games. Brett said, no, it's only because you're a Boston fan. Of course, he's a big market fanboy. It'd be worse if James was a Knicks fan or a Lakers or Warriors fan.
If he was a Knicks fan, I can understand you saying that, but
yeah. Could be just my trolling of the Cowboys that draws my admiration.
Hey, we
can level with you on that.
We all
level with you on that.
Right.
Okay. Jake, what did you want to say on the 4-1?
So I was listening to the radio this morning, actually, and I was like, oh, God, here they go. They said Bucks versus Pacers. Pacers were 4-1 against the Bucks this year. And I'm like, okay, they're getting into it. I knew they were going to bring that up.
Yep.
And they finished the season bad. And they finished the season under 500 with Doc Rivers. And can this Bucks team beat this Pacers team that owned them in the regular season? I'm thinking like, hold on a sec. You're going to bring something up that happened before Doc Rivers. Okay. It's fine. Let's follow along with that first. Now you're going to move over here and talk about how they went under 500 with Doc Rivers. And then they're going to talk about, then with the Doc Rivers stuff, they talked about how the Doc Rivers era started bad. And they're not going to, give context on that. They're just going to say, you know what? They started really bad under Doc Rivers, and everybody was wondering what the heck is going on. And then they went back to the Pacers and Buck stuff and said, even though they played bad against the Pacers, they were 30-13 when they fired Adrian Griffin. I don't agree with firing a coach when he's 30-13. I'm like, you guys are contradicting yourself right now.
Okay, this is a follow me here. I have a really weird analogy that I think makes perfect sense for this.
Go ahead.
So you got two silos next to each other, right?
Okay.
And you're climbing down the ladder.
Okay.
And the ladder's perfectly intact all the way down.
Yeah.
But you're going to try to make this weird jump across to the other silo to try to climb down that ladder and then jump back across. It's like this weird zigzag that just does not make sense. Like, why not just stay in your current lane?
That's all I was
veering over to the other lane and being like, oh, here, why don't I try to connect these dots? Let me go from this dot to this dot. That's not going to draw this picture correctly.
And Tyler, I couldn't help. And I'm going to toot our own horn here, but I couldn't help but think this is garbage. People drive in the morning and listen to this fucking trash.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing here? And I don't everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to pick a side and you're going to talk about, column A, let's talk about column A. Let's break this down, right?
Yep.
And if you want to go and you want to make a column B, let's break down column B. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Yep.
But go from column A to column B, column A, column B, back over here, and somehow they're correlated when they make no correlation at all.
No.
They don't get along at all.
Nope.
They're not the same thing. I don't know what we're doing anymore.
So it's going to be tough. Brett said people forget the Griffin side of the schedule. No offense. And yes, they did have a favorable schedule there. That was our easiest part. Doc got the call in the middle of the hardest schedule in the NBA, which is true. They had the hardest schedule after the break. Yeah. James said the thing about Doc Rivers, he's not an idiot. It's easy to troll him in any team he coaches due to lack of postseason success. But there's a reason he's ranked as a top 10 coach of all time. Say what you want, but there's a reason, and it's not just because of the 2008 Celtics. That is very well said. And I think I recommended this when the Bucks first hired Doc Rivers, is to go on Netflix and watch the Coach's Playbook for Life. There is an episode about Doc Rivers. Go watch that. I gained a good respect for Doc Rivers when I watched it. Mm-hmm. Also, Dawn Staley, the head coach of South Carolina, has an episode on there as well. I have a strong respect for her as well. She has an episode of that show on there too. Now, again, to the point of 4-1 versus the Bucks in the regular season, all of those games happened January 3rd or earlier. And the thing with that is obviously the Bucks didn't have Doc Rivers yet. The Pacers didn't have Pascal Siakam yet. The Bucks didn't have Patrick Beverley yet. So there's different things happening with these teams that just weren't the same. I mean, the Bucks got rid of Cameron Payne. That's a factor into why the Pacers were scoring so much.
It really is.
The Bucks also, when they let go of Adrian Griffin, one of the biggest things they needed to improve was transition defense. Adrian Griffin's defenses were exposed in transition. So what did Doc Rivers do? He came in. They took a little bit of emphasis off of offensive rebounding, which I can understand being frustrated by because you want your teams to be good in offensive rebounding. However, that's the sacrifice they needed to make to be better on transition defense, and they have been under Doc Rivers. It's something they had to sacrifice in order to make the improvements that were necessary. That's something that was a Pacers' strength. That's one of the main reasons the Pacers were able to go 4-1 against the Bucks, is because of how easily they were able to score in transition. The Bucks have shut that shit down. They have made that change. Mm-hmm. So the Pacers did lead the NBA in scoring at 123 points a game this year. And the Pacers were also number 1 in assists. However, the Milwaukee Bucks, 4th in the NBA in scoring at 119 points a game. Mm-hmm. And then you consider things like, the strength of schedule, especially after the All-Star break. And then looking at 3-point percentage. The teams are 10 and 11, so they're pretty even there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how did the Pacers then end up as the 6th seed if they are number 1 in scoring, number 1 in assists, and top 10 in three-point shooting?
Tell him, Tyler. Tell him.
Points per game allowed. Indiana, 120.3, 27th in the NBA.
Oh, my God.
This Pacers team don't play no defense, and they did not make a coaching change to address it. They didn't need to, in my opinion, but the Bucks did. Take care, Brett. The Bucks did make a defensive coaching adjustment, and they were 21st in the NBA at 116.4 points a game. So the Pacers, on average, won 123 to 120. The Bucks 119 to 116. So the point differential is similar, but I don't think it's going to be the same when we get to the postseason.
I don't think so either.
Now, also, here's where the two bigger discrepancies come in: opponent field goal percentage and rebounding. So sure, the Bucks and the Pacers, they only give up a 4-point difference in points per game. Opponent field goal percentage, the Bucks are 14th. So top half of the NBA. It's obviously still not as high as you'd prefer them to be defensively. You want to take a stab at where Indiana ranked in the NBA in opponent field goal percentage?
20?
Nope.
30th?
30th.
I was going to say 28th, but all right.
Dead last in opponent field goal percentage.
That's fun.
Sure. James said, I will say Doc is the perfect mix of an old school and modern era. He will take command of his team, but he's never been an up-in-your-face yelling coach. He's personable, soft-spoken, and is somewhat player-oriented. He will draw plays and demand respect. Don't take his kindness for weakness. And I think he's with that. I think he's good at holding players accountable as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I do agree that he's a good mix on that. And then the other thing that I had with this is rebounding. So the Bucks are 11th in the NBA in rebounding. The Indiana Pacers, 27th. So points per game may be close, but rebounding and opponent field goal percentage, not close.
Jesus.
Looking at something like close game winning percentage, the Milwaukee Bucks in close games were 526. Indiana was 429. So the Bucks won about 10% more of their games in close game situations, which in the playoffs, they generally tend to be closer.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the Bucks home and away and Indiana's home and away, the Milwaukee Bucks had an 875 win percentage at home. That's ridiculous. Number 1 in the NBA. On the road, 273. They struggled. Indiana, 462 at home. That's 40% lower. It's actually 41% lower winning percentage at home than the Bucks. And on the road, a 375 winning percentage. So they're 40% lower in win percentage at home and 10% higher on the road. Not a huge advantage there for Indiana.
They are what they are, really.
Yeah. So looking at it, my keys for the Bucks really are to handle business at home and set the tone, and then show the scramble rotation defensively that we've seen them be capable of. We've seen them be capable of some really great rotations defensively, scrambling around, always finding the next man, following the ball, finding the next rotation. That's really what I want to see from the Bucks defense immediately to start this series, as well as just handling business at home. So do you have any keys that you want to throw out there?
Yeah. Obviously, my first one is going to be home cooking. That's first and foremost, man. I would love, and I've been saying this ever since I heard the Giannis injury news. I was like, listen, we're going to go into the playoffs. Giannis isn't playing the rest of the regular season. We're going to go into the playoffs. Hopefully Giannis can, he's going to sit out game 1. I've been saying that ever since. I would sit him out game 1. You have the bench players. You win game 1, okay? You win game 1. You go into game 2. Who cares? Who cares if you lose game 2? You're 1-1. Now, obviously, if they win, the scenario for me, if they win, you sit them out game 3. If you lose game 3 and you're up 2-1 and Giannis comes back, he gets an extra week at least of rest. I mean, I would have to look at
I got it for you.
Fully. Yeah,
so Giannis obviously hasn't played since last Tuesday, so he's already been off for a week. The Bucks start their series on Sunday. Then they play Tuesday, and then I believe it's Friday, Sunday.
It's Friday.
Friday, Sunday. Wednesday?
I don't remember the next one.
There's usually 2 days in between travel, but I know it starts with Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday.
Yep, it's Sunday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. If it gets to a game 7, but as you're saying, if you get to that game 2 Tuesday, that's 2 weeks right there.
Yep.
So if you sit them out for game 1, you win. You sit them out for game 2, you get 2 weeks of rest. You get to that next Friday, and you lose that game. Now you're what is it, 17, 18 days into rest?
Yeah, you're about 2.5 weeks. Yeah.
Hopefully his leg is feeling better by that point. And if he is, and if Dame's, cooking a little bit, and Chris is cooking, and Bobby's having a good series, and you could enter in a first-team All-NBA player. I'm not trying to hear none of that Jalen Brunson bullshit. You enter in a first-team All-NBA player. I'm going to say it again, a first-team All-NBA player because he averaged 30 points on 60% shooting. He's the first player to ever do that in a league that had Shaq, Hakeem, Wilt. He's the only one. You're not freaking taking him off for this 5'5" freaking left-handed point guard because he has weird dreads. I don't care. I'm not doing it. Good God.
His team finished higher in the standings.
I don't care. This is an individual-based award, not a team accomplishment. And people get those things mixed up all the time for some reason. This is just Giannis. You're just looking at Giannis.
Yep.
Just Giannis.
Yep.
The 34 guy. Not all the other people that wear Bucks jerseys. JJ Redick putting him 6 on MVP was absolutely the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard in my life. But anyways, my second key would be to dominate the boards. Because I've talked about this before. Dominating the rebounding, you're showing physicality. You are showing the physicality. We're going to bump them on drives. You think Halliburton's going to have those wide open layups like he was having in the regular season? In November? No. I promise you somebody's coming over and giving him a check. Okay? I promise you. So show the physicality, show the rebounding, and you know what? Let's have the others shoot good at home, and let's take care of business.
All right. So between today and next Wednesday, we will have game 1 and game 2. So Jake and I will review those 2 games next week on our regular Wednesday show. Anything else you want to say on the Milwaukee Bucks before we move into the Milwaukee Brewers?
Everybody please calm down and just enjoy the games. That's all I got.
That's too much to ask.
Oh, you can't just calm down and watch basketball like a normal human?
You just tell people to calm down. You can't just tell people to calm down.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to listen, but I highly recommend it.
Especially Brett. Brett left because he had to go to work, I think he said, but can't tell Brett to calm down. It makes him more angry.
That's true. I've experienced it.
We can switch to baseball now. Switching into baseball mode. This is going to be our first week doing our power pair and underrated performers for the Brewers because we wanted to let the sample size increase a little bit. But James said people say they don't play defense in the NBA anymore. In the playoffs, defense and physicality gets ramped up, and it absolutely does. The game slows down. Bill said, "No, I will not calm down. Calm down, Bill." In all caps, too, he says it.
I mean, fine, that's up to you, but I would just highly recommend, lowering the heart rate a little bit.
And the blood pressure a little bit?
Yeah.
All right. Bottom line, no matter what happens, Jake and I will still be here telling people to calm down and be more positive.
We will. You don't have to listen, but again, recommended.
I mean, it could be better for you. Probably better for your mental health for sure.
It's very true.
All right. So, Jake, hit me with your first power pair and underrated performer of the season.
Whew. It's going to be good because the Brewers have been playing good. My first one is Willie Adames. He was 9 of 23, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 1 home run, 6 RBI, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts, slashing .391 average, a .481 on base percentage, a .609 slug, and a 1,090 OPS. So, as we talked about our Patreon, we gave a free episode yesterday. In the pregame show, we were both giving a lot of credit to Willie Adames playing very good at the plate.
Plate discipline is way up.
Right. So my power pair pitcher, I went with my guy Freddie Peralta, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run. It was a home run, but you give up 1 home run in 6 innings pitched. That's fine. 11 Ks, a 0.83 whip, a 1.50 ERA. And if you would take his Ks and average them out per 9 innings, that's 16.5 Ks per 9, which is filthy. My underrated performer, and this sucks because he just entered the 15-day DL, is JB Bukakis. 2 2/3 innings, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 0 home runs, 0 walks, 3 Ks. That's a 0.38 whip, and you guessed it, a 0 ERA.
He's got good stuff.
Yes, he does. He's going to be a good player for us. He's important for us. So once we get him off the 15-day DL, hopefully he can stay off that for the rest of the year.
Yeah. So, first of all, good job by calling Freddie by his correct first name.
Oh, I've been working on that so hard, dude. I'm like, if I call him Willie one more time, I swear to God.
All right. Bukowskis does have 1 extra S in his last name that you missed, though.
Oh, my apologies.
It's okay. You're 1 for 2.
Yeah. That's a good average in baseball.
All right. So I went with William Contreras. I picked the low-hanging fruit, but I let Jake have Freddie Peralta. But William Contreras over the last week, 8 for 23. That's a 348 batting average, 2 home runs, 6 RBI, 4 walks, and only 5 strikeouts, 2 of which came today. My power pitcher, I went with Brian Hudson. I actually brought him up pretty much every show since the Brewers season started because I really, really like what he brings to the team. And the last week, he pitched 3 2/3 innings scoreless, only gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. I'm really, really liking the addition of Brian Hudson to this team. The height that he has with the wide release point as a left-handed pitcher, it's got to be disorienting to hitters because it's not normal the way that he throws the ball.
Right.
And then for underrated performer, I went with Colin Ray. Now I'm gonna have this discussion for another pitcher because I had this discussion last season for Colin Ray, and Colin Ray went up against Corbin Burns and he pitched 5 2/3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 3 earned runs, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. That might not sound like a big deal. It's like that's an okay game. The thing that makes Colin Ray an underrated performer to me is the fact that no matter what happens, and outside of a couple very obvious outliers, every single time Colin Ray pitches, he gives you a chance to win.
That's true.
That's why he's my underrated performer. Every time he pitches, he gives you a chance to win.
That is true.
So we can get into these games individually, starting with the Brewers and Reds from the end of last week. This was supposed to be a 4-game series, ended up only being a 3-game series. # put a roof on it. But what stood out to you from the final game from the Brewers and Reds last week?
Well, if you didn't know, Christian Yelich owns the Cincinnati Reds.
Sure does.
He had a home run in this game, his 5th of the year, and it really sparked a lot of stuff on all social media platforms that Yelly is indeed back. And then his back got hurt, and that sucked. But it is what it is. In this game, he was back. He had 2 RBIs, including the home run. Perkins had an RBI. Contreras had 2 RBIs, one of them with 2 outs. Churio had 2 RBIs, also one of them with 2 outs. Perkins also hit his first home run of the year, stole the base. Churio stole the base. And the Brewers were 4 for 8 with runners in scoring position, just continuing their amazingly hot start from hitting with runners in scoring position. Wade Miley got his first start of the year in this one, 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned, 2 walks, and 0 Ks. Bryce Wilson came in this one, gave us 3 good innings, Hobie Milner and JB Bukakis. Hopefully I pronounced that extra S. Bukowskis. Sorry.
There you go.
He gave a good inning in this one, but the Brewers own the Reds. Honestly, if this is just the last 2 years, it seems like every Brewers-Red series, there's going to be an Ellie De La Cruz game, and then the Brewers are going to win the next couple. And I'm honestly, if I have to give one, and you guys get, you get some highlights, you feel good for a day, and you give us a couple more extra wins, I'm chilling.
Have I not been saying this for years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
because
chilling.
we know somebody that places an overemphasis on run differential almost more than wins and losses.
Yeah.
That I will lose 16-0 in one game if it means winning the other 2 games of the series.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I do not give a shit losing if you're winning the series. Like, I don't care how badly you lose the one game if you win the other two. If you are literally winning series over the course of the season, you're going to obviously win more games than you lose. And winning 2 out of 3 puts you on a pretty good position to be. That puts you on pace for 104 wins if you win 2 out of every 3.
That was some very fast math. That's also incredible that you'd win 104 games just winning 2 out of 3. That's crazy.
That's all I got to do. And people still freak out for the one that you lose.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, even if you lose a series, people will freak out, which is really fun. Brewers are 4-1-1 on the season in their series, and people are freaking out. Ooh, they've already come back down to earth. Ooh. We'll get there. Couple things that I wanted to throw with this. Wade Miley for his first game back, pitching for contact, getting efficient innings, good defense behind him to throw 52 pitches in 4 innings in his first game back. I was pretty happy with that. Mm-hmm. Last night went a little bit differently, unfortunately, but we'll see what happens with Wade Miley. Mm-hmm. You mentioned Christian Yelich going to the disabled list, the injured list after this game. Actually, it wasn't after this game. It was after the next game. But the play of Blake Perkins, which I talked about a lot in our pregame show last night, mm-hmm. The play of Blake Perkins gives the Brewers the ability to be overly cautious with Christian Yelich.
100%.
So that is something that really needs to be continually hammered on instead of just complaining that Christian Yelich is hurt again. Mm-hmm. The fact that the Brewers have the ability to be overly cautious because somebody else is giving them really good play. Mm-hmm. So the defense that I wanted to bring up with this game was Joey Ortiz. Joey Ortiz started 2 double plays and had 5 putouts. So he was a defensive factor in 9 of the 27 outs. That's essentially 33% of the outs of the game. Joey Ortiz was a factor in.
I like that.
But he got crucified after one game where he had a couple errors. Okay, let's go to Brewers Orioles. Game 1. Let's throw it to you from game 1 against the Orioles.
Man, I'm going to couple them together just for a second. These first 2 games in this Orioles series were fun. They were
great.
So much fun.
Great baseball.
My favorite games to take notes on and reminisce about are the ones where I have to write 3 pitcher stats down, and then my RBI section looks like this long. It looks like a CVS receipt because I know I get to talk a lot and give a credit to a lot of people. So this is the game that Freddie started. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, no walks, and 11 Ks. He looked absolutely like our ace. And if you're Corbin Burns watching this, and I'm just assuming at this point, but if you're Corbin Burns watching this, you're like, damn, bro, that used to be our 3rd best pitcher. That's insane. I want to give credit to Vieira real quick, man. He's giving us some good innings, dude.
Yep. He's Vinny Rottino for calling him as like one of the underrated performers of the year.
Right? He's coming in, eating innings, and not giving up a lot of runs. 1 walk, 1 hit, and 2 Ks, and 2 innings pitched in this one. And yeah, it may be considered garbage time if there's garbage time in baseball, but I don't care. He's eating innings, and he's saving arms for the next day. So now we get to the fun stuff, right? Gary Sanchez gets his first homer of the year, and everybody still freaks out and hates on him. He absolutely smashed that baseball, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
Adames and Contreras hit their 3rd home runs of the year. So we go to RBIs. Sanchez, 2 RBIs. Adames, 3 RBIs. Hoskins, RBI with 2 outs. That's important. Ortiz, 2 RBIs, an RBI with 2 outs. And Frelick, an RBI with 2 outs. 5 of 12 with runners in scoring position. So I'm going to go back to the game against the Reds. We had 6 hits versus 12 Ks. We still won that game. That's crazy to me. In this game against the Orioles, game 1, they had 15 hits and only 6 strikeouts as a team.
Damn.
That's filthy.
That's awesome. Love to hear that.
They were hitting the ball all over the place and obviously hitting with runners in scoring position and scoring a ton of runs and taking over the city of Baltimore on Apple TV, which everybody complained about too.
I forgot about that too. This game was cool because it allowed me to update a graphic that I made last season. Was the Freddie K graphic. So the Freddie Peralta, the Freddie K, the Freddie Krueger sweater on Freddie Peralta, and I was also able to add a Jason mask from Friday the 13th because it became Freddie the 13th, and it worked out so perfectly that it was on a Friday. Like I was making this, and I'm like, this is good content right here. because Freddie Peralta had his 13th double-digit strikeout game on a Friday. And his name is Freddie. So I got to do Freddie the 13th on a Friday, his 13th double-digit strikeout game. That was just, that was great for the content.
Mm-hmm.
So Freddie was fantastic. He was painting corners, changing speeds, changing eye levels. He gave up a double and then retired 8 straight batters. Then he gave up a solo home run and then retired 9 of the next 12 batters, 5 of them with strikeouts.
Golly.
He finished with 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, 11 strikeouts on 90 pitches.
Cooked.
To have double-digit strikeouts on 90 pitches is ridiculous.
He cooked.
He went crazy. The Brewers also had their 5th straight game of 7+ runs for the first time since 2011. And the last thing that I want to throw out here on this game, James McCann is soft. James McCann is soft for getting in Willy Adames' face. He didn't do anything. He didn't pimp his home run or anything. He didn't do a crazy bat flip. I don't know what James McCann was doing besides being soft. But I want to say, when Willy Adames was getting face-to-face with James McCann, William Contreras was ready to stand on business.
Bro. Now think about this, right? And I said this to you because we were playing Xbox that night, actually. And I was like, all right, so you have the emotional leader of the Brewers, wearing number 27, getting into it with a white catcher named McCann. Tell me if you've heard this before, right? And I was going to let you bring this up because I knew you were going to do it in such a great way. My favorite part of this game, all the home runs, all the everything, right?
Yep.
Favorite part of this game was Willy Adames came back up the bat, gets a hit that's like an infield single, basically, gets moved over the second base, then gets hit in. As he's sliding in, stares him down, and I'm like, do not look at him, bro. That was one of those moments where people take the video and they put it in slow motion and that he knew not to look over there because he knew he looked like a dumbass. That was the best part of the whole game. That was so sick.
What I loved about it is because obviously everybody's coming out of the dugout. Is that William Contreras is one of the first guys to come out of the dugout that he puts his hand on Pat Murphy's shoulder and he uses Pat Murphy to push off to get out of the dugout. William Contreras is ready to stand on business.
And you know what? I said this to you. If that ball would have been close to home plate, and I know there's a rule against it, I really don't think Adames is stopping. I think he's going to run his ass over. Because you're not going to get away talking sweet, man. I think he would have ran him over. I really do. And I'm not trying to advocate for that or anything like that, but It's been a long time since baseball's had some excitement like that. I'm just saying. The excitement we get now is people, the benches are cleared.
Yeah. Big bat flip.
Yep.
But I mean, to be getting your ass kicked in a game and then get mad about it, if you don't want to be in a position where you're losing 11-1, play better.
Go write it in your diary, dude. You don't need to be making a statement on the field.
I mean, they did play better in game 2. They only lost 11-5 this time.
Oh, so much better.
So what stood out to you from game 2?
So the first thing is when, I'm taking these notes and I'm not physically watching this in my head as I'm watching the game. But as I write it down, I'm like, there's no way. Game 1, 15 hits. Game 2, 15 hits. Game 1, 6 strikeouts. Game 2, 6 strikeouts. We spanked that ass 2 days in a row. Damn, son. They kicked their ass so bad. And my favorite part was seeing posts from Orioles fans after their game on Friday. And the only thing that I kept reading was, the Orioles lineup is licking their chops because they see D.L. Hall's on the mound tomorrow. I'm like, how'd you like that L, buddy? Because we smacked the shit out of your starting pitcher. And D.L. Hall, he's a little rough around the edges, but I'm going to tell you, he's going to be a good one.
He's raw.
You could tell right now that he's going to be a good one.
Yep.
He's got the right foundation. And the Brewers just have to mold him correctly, which if you're going to trust a pitching lab, which we've been calling it for how many years, I'm gonna push all my chips in on the Brewers. I'm just saying.
Exactly. I mean, if you're like, let's say DL Hall is like a free agent, and you're like, okay, like I can pick any of the 30 teams. I have offers from all 30 teams.
Mhm.
Which team is going to help me develop as a pitcher the best?
I mean, it'd be really hard pressed to not say the Brewers, right?
I don't think that there's a better answer, to be honest with you.
I'm with it.
I mean, Houston.
I mean, look what they did with Elvis Peguero. I mean, there's just a number.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's not just starters that they're kicking out. And it's not just a couple here, a couple there.
Right. And, you know, there is guys that have nasty stuff. Like Devin Williams, everybody knew kind of right away that he was going to be a beast, right? And, you know, they take that and they elevate that from like, oh, God, this guy's really good to elite, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you always get to jump another level with this Brewers pitching lab. But, you know, to go over to the batting side, Adames with 2 more RBIs, Bauer with 4 RBIs, Jake Bauer with 4 RBIs, 3 of them with 2 outs.
Mm-hmm.
Hoskins with 2 RBIs, 1 of them with 2 outs. Hoskins hit a home run with 2 outs in the second, and Bowers hit a home run with 2 outs in the 4th inning. 6 for 10 with runners in scoring position. So, I mean, they were going crazy in this series, man. The first 2 games, I don't know if you could draw up a better first 2 games of a series. And I understand it's early in the year, but, like, take what you can get. And, you know, if you're going to draw up 2 W's, you're going to have some dominant pitching. I mean, I know the Orioles scored 5 runs, but they're a good offense. They're supposed to be one of the best offenses.
You're talking about in 2 games outscoring a team 22-6. I'm not complaining about anything.
And having 30 hits to 12 strikeouts. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous, right? You know, and on top of that, what are they? 11 for 22 with runners in scoring position the first 2 games?
Stupid.
That's disgusting, dude. That's as a team. Well, that's gross. So, I mean, you can't draw up a better first 2 games.
That's why I'm not mad about the Padres series. Like, it's obviously gonna ebb and flow. We talked about it in the pregame yesterday.
Yep.
Okay, I want to go back to DL Hall. I teased this when I mentioned Colin Ray. This year, it is DL Hall. He did not have a great outing. He got hurt with 2 outs. 4 of the 5 runs that he gave up came with 2 outs, including the 3 in the first inning that he gave up. Now, I'm aware that the Milwaukee Brewers traded Corbin Burns and got DL Hall in return. However, just because DL Hall was in the deal with Corbin Burns does not mean that DL Hall should be judged by Corbin Burns standards. I'm getting really sick of that shit. Stop judging DL Hall by 2023 Corbin Burns standards. That is wrong. Just plain wrong. You can put any label you want. Wrong, stupid, dumb. It's all of those things. I swear, if I see one more, we traded for Corbin Burns for this guy. Yes, we did. However, he is not here to replace Corbin Burns. The more apt way to put it is he's here to potentially be the next Corbin Burns, to be the left-handed Corbin Burns. If you want to judge DL Hall by any Corbin Burns standards, do it by his 2019 standards. That's what you should be comparing DL Hall to if you want to compare him to Corbin Burns. Not 1 year post Cy Young winning award Corbin Burns.
Yeah, right.
That is not where DL Hall is in his career. He is at the beginning of his career, not 1 year removed from winning a Cy Young award. Stop comparing DL Hall to Corbin Burns.
Well done. Well done.
Christopher said stats.
He just comes in here and yells stats.
I got one here for you right now. This is the 3rd time in franchise history that the Brewers have scored 7+ runs in 6 straight games. There's a stat for you.
Do you know the other years?
1989, 1982.
Good boy.
The other 2 things that I wanted to throw with this game was Elvis Peguero and J.B. Bukowskis. Elvis Peguero was really good, and J.B. Bukowskis, his sinker-slider combination was really effective, and I'm excited for him to get back healthy and back in the bullpen.
Yes.
Okay. Game 3. Obviously, the Orioles did get this one, but honestly, not mad at it.
No.
What's about you from the finale?
Well, obviously, we're going against our former ace and Burns in the first at bat, and this is what I brought up in the pregame show yesterday. Is I love that Murphy is just playing with the lineup, man. He's like, oh, I can put this guy here, I can put this guy down at fifth, I can bat him first. Fuck it, And he just throws our best hitter, Contreras, right at the top, and he mashes a homer right away. And I'm like, good vibes,
Second
baby.
pitch of the game. He extended his hitting streak to 10 on the second pitch of the game.
Dude, he freaking crushed that too.
Yeah, he did.
And I was texting my dad, and I was like, dude, that thing looks like a fucking grapefruit to that guy right now. He is not missing any part
It's
of
like in Benchwarmers when he sees it as the mailbox.
Right? Dude, he is crushing the baseball right now. And, Burns probably just tipped the hat because he knows how good of a hitter Contreras is.
Yeah.
But obviously, Burns settled in, as we've seen him do before. And I'm not mad at it. I will say I want to give credit to Frelick as he manufactured a run.
Absolutely. That's an intentional thing, too.
Yeah.
I have it highlighted in my notes that Blake Perkins had a leadoff single, got the second on the disengagements, and Sal Frelick then got a single that moved Perkins over to third base. And then Sal Frelick taking off for second base, and as soon as the throw goes, Blake Perkins takes off for home, and then Sal Frelick stops so that Blake Perkins can touch home plate before he gets tagged out because then the run counts.
Yeah.
And they absolutely manufactured that run.
And I will say this, the biggest difference between last year's offense, if you want to make a comparison, last year's offense to this year's offense, obviously some different faces.
Mm-hmm.
But the manufacturing of runs, playing a little bit of small ball, is really, really going a long way for this Milwaukee Brewers team. And James gave credit to Doc Rivers earlier about he's a good mix between modern era and old school. I feel that same comparison can be used for Murphy.
1,000% agree.
And immediately when he said it, and I was like, man, we're going to talk about the Brewers. And I was thinking, like, I could see Pat Murphy being described that way. I'm not going to lie to you. So thank you, James. Shout out to you for that. But the Brewers, they came back. The Orioles team, they took a win. It is what it is. Uribe gave up 2 runs in this one. He's got to gain some confidence back, in my opinion. So it is what it is. He's a young guy. Perkins and Contreras with RBIs. They both had home runs, and the hitting with runners in scoring position. Obviously, it wasn't going to stay at 500, right? So they went.
I'd be happy if it stayed around 300.
Man, for real. But the Brewers were 13 for 39 in the series. That's including this one where they went 2 of 17. So you said you'd be happy with 300. That's 1 out of 3, right?
333. Oh, I'll take that all season.
That's with a 2 for 17 in there, dude. That's fucking sick.
Yeah, but that's high, high, low. That's one of those things where people are going to go high, high, low instead of just going even, enjoying a little extra on the high days and then staying even.
Yep.
So when we talk about, not riding the roller coaster so hard and remaining level-headed, doesn't mean that we're telling people to not enjoy the highs. It's to stay level and have this be your base. And then when the highs are there, maybe not going so crazy and being like, the Brewers are winning it all this year because they took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles, but just riding right here. Just riding a little higher. But then when the low comes, not crashing through the floor, it's just hitting the floor and staying there and not going into the abyss.
Right.
So you mentioned small ball, and I'm glad you brought it up because me personally, I have been an advocate kind of not against small ball, but against limiting your potential to score runs. So I want to say that I like the way the Brewers are playing small ball, but it's specifically the brand of small ball that the Brewers are playing. Because they're playing small ball, they're manufacturing runs, but they're not doing it in a way that is going to limit the ways that they can score. They're doing it in ways that can increase the way they're going to score. So they're not bunting. They're not trying to get sacrifices. That I don't like. That I'm still very strongly against. You're giving other teams outs on purpose. Don't do that. You're going to make outs as a great hitter 70% of the time. Don't do it more on purpose. So doing it with speed and stealing bases and taking extra bases And things like in the 6th inning, a hit and run by Joey Ortiz. They did this on purpose. So Bryce Terang, after a Gary Sanchez leadoff single, Bryce Terang grounded into a fielder's choice. He was on first base. He took off for second, and the second baseman takes off for second base to meet Bryce Terang there on the steal. And what does Joey Ortiz do? He puts the bat on the ball and just slaps it right to where the second baseman would have been standing. That's how you know it's on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Ortiz just goes, okay, I'm just going to put the ball right where that guy was just standing, and he isn't there anymore because the guy was going to steal the base. Mm-hmm. And Bryce Terang goes straight over to third. That's, dude. And they did it again, like the next day. Mm-hmm. And it's intentional. That is the kind of small ball that, like, yeah, they're going to have things like William Contreras taking off from third base and getting thrown out at the plate. Those things are going to happen, but those are the risks that you take to play this way that can help you manufacture runs. Mm-hmm. And that's the brand of small ball that I really like enjoying from the Brewers early this season. The aggressive, relying on your speed, and just generally creating havoc. Mm-hmm. So Rhys Hoskins, the double that he had in the first inning would have been a home run in 28 out of 30 ballparks. Willie Adames had one the day before, I believe, that would have been a home run in 29 out of 30 ballparks. The only one that it wouldn't was Camden Yards, which obviously where they were playing. Mm-hmm. And this is why I put Colin Ray as my underrated performer of the week, because he was going head-to-head with Corbin Burnes, obviously. Mm-hmm. And my thing with Colin Ray is, even though the Brewers lost this game, he gave the Brewers a chance to win. So through 5 innings, the Brewers were down 3-2, I believe. And in this situation, through 5 innings pitched, Corbin Burnes had thrown 95 pitches. Colin Ray had thrown 76 pitches. And Corbin Burnes had 5 strikeouts. Colin Ray had 6. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not saying that Colin Ray is better than Corbin Burnes, but he gave the Brewers a chance to win against Corbin Burnes this day. He absolutely did. And that's all you can ask for from a guy like Colin Ray. Other thing that I want to throw out there, after this game, the Brewers had 87 hits in their last 7 games.
Jeez.
That's an average of over 12 hits a game for 7 straight games. Wow. Who's shocked that they came back to earth a little bit again in this Padres series?
Yeah, right. But,
dude, that's so nuts to average 12 hits over 7 games.
I will say that they were getting a little bit unlucky in the Padres series.
And I agree with that. And they still didn't get swept, and obviously they still had a chance to win some of these games, but let's go to game 1 against the Padres. Let's go to Monday's game. What stood out to you for Monday?
The thing that stood out for me really was, man, I can't stop thinking about that shitty 6th inning, man. It just, everything that could have went wrong in that inning went wrong in that inning, and really that's where all the whiners started coming out, because they lost the day before, obviously, to Corbin Burnes, so everybody's feeling all doom and gloom about that. And then losing at home to the Padres the way that they lost, it is what it is, man. I mean, Ross, I'm not expecting Ross to be Corbin Burnes either. I'm expecting him to...
Honestly, I didn't expect Joe Ross was that. I didn't think Joe Ross was that bad this game either.
No, he really wasn't. He got some bad luck.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the 6 earned runs is going to look really bad when you go back and look at it. But when you break it down and you think about it, you're kind of like, that makes sense. That could happen to anybody, right? You know, a couple, bad throw here, a soft single here, and, all of a sudden you give up 6 runs when you blink an eye. But RBIs in this one, Churio had 2 RBIs in this one with 2 outs. He's up to 11. Adames is up to 10 RBIs after his RBI. Churio smacked a home run to put the Brewers up 3-0. The Brewers were winning this one 3-0, and then that bad inning happened. But 3 of 10 with runners in scoring position, when you think about it, right? We talk about all the time about being 3 for 10, and that's a 300 hitter, right? So 3 for 10 runners in scoring position, give yourself a chance to win.
I will take it.
I will take it as well. It is what it is, man. Kanan got some good 2 innings of work in here. Obviously gave up 3 hits and 0 earned runs and 1K. But, I mean, I like that they're working these other guys in that people aren't very familiar with, and we're getting to see some of their stuff, right?
Yeah, Jared Koenig, the 1,000th player to wear a Brewers uniform. So,
damn it, I forgot to write that down. I saw that stat. Good call. Good call.
Got you. Okay, so William Contreras also extended his hitting streak to 11. Now, my main takeaway with this game, it comes from Joe Ross. So he had the really bad inning that they scored the 5 runs. 6 runs. Sorry, 6 runs.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, watching Joe Ross, he started this game with a 1-2-3 inning. In the second inning, he gave up 2 singles with 2 outs and then got a strikeout to end it. The third inning was a 1-2-3 inning. And he gave up 1 run in the fourth. And then the fifth is where the wheels kind of came off. But looking at those first 4 innings, his off-speed stuff, his slider, his curveball were actually really effective.
Mm-hmm.
Where he ended up getting hurt was the fastball and the sinker that he was throwing. And even the slider that he did give up a hit to Xander Bogaerts, it was a 69.9 miles per hour exit velocity. So it's not exactly scorched off the bat that you have to be like, nope, his slider was bad too because he gave up earned runs off of it. It was a really just soft contact that just found the grass. That's where Jake said, they kind of unlucky in the series. I actually think Joe Ross's slider and his curveball were actually really good. And for this being his 3rd outing of the season, I think you can already kind of see how to fix Joe Ross a little bit. And it's a little bit less fastball sinker and a little more slider curveball. The 3rd outing of the year. He hasn't pitched in 2021. And I can already see, I can already deduce how to help make Joe Ross a little more effective.
He's going to have to pick and choose where to use the fastball, obviously. But, I mean, I agree.
You use it to set up the other pitches, and then you throw those.
I agree.
And you keep the fastball out of the zone a little bit more. But you throw it, you throw it up here, and you're like, okay, that high fastball, and then you see a slider that's low around your knees, and it just goes away from you, and you're not touching it.
Agreed.
So I'm excited to see Joe Ross pitch again. Call me weird, but I think he's got Colin Ray 2023 potential in Joe Ross.
And the way the Brewers are playing offense, you can win with that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I really think Joe Ross has potential to end up being a guy who gives you a chance to win every time he goes out and pitches, the way that Colin Ray does.
I like it.
Okay, so last night we did a watch party for Brewers-Padres Game 2. Again, you can check that out. That's on our Facebook and YouTube pages. It's also on our Twitter page, but there's no commenting on there. So Facebook and YouTube, check that out. Watch the pregame. Just check out the pregame. See if you enjoy it. We're going to be doing Patreon starting in May. It's already live now, and you can vote on the games we cover in May. But check out the pregame. We put a lot of work into it. We get our virtual studios and throw some polos on and make it look official as we can. But there's a lot of information that goes into that, and the more people that subscribe to that, the further along Jake and I can get with monetizing the show a little bit and potentially get closer to making it our full-time jobs and being able to do more things like that and give more in-depth things. So when we talk about Padres and Brewers Game 2 and seeing the way that Dylan Cease pitched with a lot of sliders, you could have known that in the pregame show because I talked a lot about Dylan Cease's slider.
You did.
And he used it a lot. So it's like, all right, cool. That made me feel smart. Like, nice. But what's the to you from last night when we were doing our watch party during Game 2?
Well, first of all, I think we have the best pregame show in the business. Just going to say that, man. It is a lot of work.
Second pregame show ever, and we're best in the business.
Well, the best, dude. That's just what we do.
It'll get better.
It will get better. Better than already the best. And we're just going to continue to be the best. But I wanted to say, man, almost like not almost. It has the same feel for me like you say about the NFL draft, right? For us, when we do this research and we feel like we know the league more, right? So with us doing these pregame shows and looking up all these advanced stats and, what bacon and all this other stuff, right? I mean, it makes me feel like I learned so much more about baseball. And I'm nowhere near an expert on any of these sports, but being a student of the sport and being passionate and loving it, it makes me feel that much better when we do this stuff. So I feel like I do know more and I understand it more. So
It's fun,
I
too.
really, I love it, honestly. Wade Miley really unlucky, man. Just
Yeah.
absolutely gets clobbered with a baseball up the kneecap. And
Manny
that
Machado's dirty.
what'd you say?
I'm obviously joking, but it's a funny coincidence.
Yeah. So if anybody's ever like hit your leg on like a table or like your bed, and you're just
Like a Charlie horse.
Jesus, that hurt, you know, and you're swearing to the high heavens. Imagine a baseball hitting
You just said that. It made me instantly think of Family Guy when like anybody falls and hits their knee and they're like,
or when he falls down those stairs, bro, or the slippery stairs episode. Right?
that's 108 miles an hour off the bat, off your kneecap.
Why did
Thank you.
Why did we not think of that last night? We should have both been doing. That'd have been so good. But you know, other than that, I mean, bringing Abner Uribe in the middle innings was an interesting move.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it brought up the whiners. I had one guy today tell me that's how you ruin a pitcher, and I'm like, yeah, bro, I really don't agree with you here. He was like, he was your closer, and then you brought him in the 8th inning and the 7th inning, and now you're bringing him in the 4th inning. It doesn't make any sense. You're ruining.
People should really watch our show more. Damn.
I'm like, bro, what are you talking about right now? I don't know if I should just like stop talking to you like at all, but we already played today, buddy. They won 1-0.
Yep, Brewers won today. Yep, we're gonna get to that one in a minute here.
Yeah, but I mean, in my opinion, what he's just trying to do is just let Abner Uribe go out there and gain some confidence, get used to his stuff again, get that feel for it. You know, kind of like we talked about with basketball. When a shooter's not shooting good, right? What do you tell him to do?
Shoot.
Get to the free throw line.
Shoot.
Shoot. Get to the free throw line. Get a feel for that basketball, and then after that, it's go time, right?
See the ball go through the hoop.
With a pitcher, get a feel for that. You know, get that slider feel back. Get that fastball feel back. You know, get that control. I mean, that's something that has been a note for him since he came up, was that he can be a little bit wild at times.
Yep.
You know, he has the stuff, but he doesn't have the control. Yep. And if he can get that control under command again, he's going to go right back down into the later innings of games.
You know, play the 8th. Spoiler alert.
Like gaining up some confidence is not a bad thing. Paguero came in. He kind of struggled last night too as well. He's another guy. He'll give you 6, 7, 8, 9 good outings in a row. And he's so polarizing in this way. And he'll give you all these good outings in a row, and then he'll have a stinker. And people are like, why do we keep letting this guy in the 7th inning? And I'm like,
Bryce Wilson and Joel Payamps are the exact same way.
It's like, do you watch one game a fucking week, dude? Do you only watch the one game?
Dude, that's the crash. I'm telling you. Like, people can just be like, yeah, these guys are great. Be like, this guy sucks. Like, dude.
Come on now, right? Like, come on. I seriously am going to start asking, do you watch one game a week? Did you only watch today? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, people got to chill out.
Break out those guys yesterday, right? Like,
Bill, calm down.
Yeah,
I'm sure it wasn't Bill complaining about Elvis Figueroa yesterday. But
no, it definitely wasn't. It was some dude with a fake profile picture, which is absolutely not shocking for 1 second.
Yeah.
But you know, Bowers had an RBI with 2 outs. Contreras had 2 RBIs, one of them with 1 out, and you know, 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. As you've brought up in the past, the law of averages always wins. So eventually they were going to come back down to the MLB average. They weren't going to be hitting 500 for the entire year, because otherwise we'd be the greatest team of all time.
Yeah,
I would love that, but it's not going to happen.
It's not realistic, yeah.
Right.
So you can be optimistic and realistic. Is that what we're saying, dude? Are we saying that?
You can do that. No sunshines and rainbows, and also no talking shit, which is crazy.
Hey, you want me to give you the other side of the coin that is optimistic and realistic?
What's that?
So the Brewers had a bad series with runners in scoring position, right? Here's the fact. They are still tied for first in all of Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position at 346. They are number 3 in on-base percentage with runners in scoring position at 402. And they are number 1 in Major League Baseball in slugging with runners in scoring position at 543. They have the number 2 OPS.
Are you sure?
In baseball.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% positive. You want to know how positive I am?
How positive are you?
I'm literally looking at the Major League Baseball website.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. You can look stuff up on the internet.
Right here,
Download
Major
the
League
Jackass.
Baseball, stats, go to team stats, hitting, go over here. This is your split tool. Go to scoring position, average. Milwaukee Brewers, number 1. On base percentage, Milwaukee Brewers, number 3. Slugging, Milwaukee Brewers, number 1. OPS, Milwaukee Brewers, number 2. They had a bad series. They are still a good team. That has not changed.
Wow. Wow. You just show people how to use the internet, dude.
Stats. There you go, Christopher. If you needed it, I got it. All right. You mentioned Abner Uribe pitching in the 4th inning. We said this while we were live during our watch party last night, that it gets you to put him in an inning where he doesn't have to feel any pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't believe in pressure as much, because if you're a good pitcher, you're going to pitch well in the grand scheme. If you're a good hitter, you're going to hit well in the grand scheme.
True.
But as a younger player in Major League Baseball, I can absolutely see pressure being something that you feel. We're all human. So as much as, me saying that I wouldn't feel pressure if, they had to pick a random fan from the stands to play in Game 7 of a Milwaukee Bucks game, and that I have to shoot a 3 to win the game because I was the random person from Wisconsin that was picked, that I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I don't feel any pressure, because pressure is not real. Like, obviously, it's a human thing to feel pressure. Mm-hmm. So you give Abner Uribe a chance to pitch in a spot where it's like, oh, hey, no matter what happens this inning, there's still the rest of the game, that it's not going to fall on your shoulders what happens at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he did. He gave up a 1-out single, and then he got a ground ball double play to end it. And you get Abner Uribe some confidence without having to worry about, what's going to happen if he doesn't win the game for the team or finish the win for the team. He came in, he did his job, he gets to build some confidence off of that, and that's all you got to do. So, other couple things from last night's game. We got to see Sal Frelick at third base for 2 innings, which I was told there's no reason that was ever going to happen when I made a post about it on the show page.
Great call.
William Contreras extended his hitting streak to 12. Sal Frelick extended his hitting streak to 5. And, yeah, the Brewers, they didn't win. They're not going to win every single game. They're not going 162-0. Literally nobody is. Everybody this season has lost.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that either.
All 30 teams have lost.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Literally all of them. Yeah.
That's really good to know. Yeah, I appreciate your information.
We got your back, Jack.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay. Now we can move into today's game. I know you were at work when it was happening, and so was I, but I was able to get, through the whole game. Is there anything at all that you want to say on today's game? And then I'll fill in the rest of the blanks.
So I was like, I had it on the phone and I had it propped up, right? And like my job, I have to walk away from my spot a lot, and I can't just like sit there and like watch it. Like, although I really badly wanted to just be like, you know what? This shit can just wait a few hours, like it's whatever. It's just going to move anyways. I'm just going to put it on a pallet. We're fine. Right. From what I saw, it seemed like the Brewers were playing better defense.
Dude, it was fantastic.
Yeah. It seemed like they were flashing the leather, and we got a clutch hit. And that's all that matters. We got a big clutch hit from Blake Perkins. Just making your point of how good Blake Perkins is playing.
Yeah, made me feel smart again.
Yeah, that immediately when I saw that, I was like, oh man, Tyler feels so good right now. But we got the clutch hit today, and we held them scoreless. We shut them out, and we won. And you know what? People are still probably pissed off about that. We only won 1-0.
Yeah, they only scored 1 run.
Yep.
And here's the thing. The Brewers were no hit for 6 2/3 innings. There was a no-hitter going for almost 7 innings, and the Brewers still won this game. The other thing is the Brewers did not have a true starter for this game.
Yeah.
And they got no hit for 6 2/3 innings, and they still won. And here's the thing is, people can complain that they only won 1-0 and they got no hit for 6 2/3 innings, and they can't rely on winning like that all the time.
Yep.
The 1-0 win in a game where they got no hit for 6 2/3 innings counts the same as the Orioles win that they got last week where they won 11-1.
They do.
They both count as one win. Bottom line, you score more runs than your opponent, you get the win. Doesn't matter how many more you score.
But Tyler, the run differential, the run differential,
I know.
the run differential. I mean that matters.
It's almost more important than wins if you get like a third tiebreaker for having the same record.
I mean they're like the same thing basically.
It's basically the same thing. Yeah.
I'm feeling very sarcastic all of a sudden, so I apologize.
I feel like it's a certain person that brings the snarkiness out because this certain person likes to act like they know more about things than they actually do. And if we don't know like 11 people that are like that, there's definitely on social media. And let me say this.
Go ahead.
We don't profess to know everything either.
No.
But we are willing to have the conversation and explain it.
Bro,
talk about it.
I literally just admitted that I love doing the pregame shows and stuff because I feel like a student of the game and I feel like I'm learning more every time that I do stuff like that. Every time we do the draft prep, I feel like I'm learning more about how these players train and how they prepare their bodies, and like I feel like I feel like I know nothing, honestly. If I'm just going to be completely transparent with you, I feel like I know nothing.
Yeah.
And you have all these people that live in the NFL, in the MLB, in the NBA, in the NCAA, right? We have all these people that just live these lives around these players and they've seen all this stuff. And it's just like, I literally know nothing compared to these people, but walking in day-to-day life, talking with these other average Joes like myself, I am much fucking smarter than you. I'm sorry.
And this is the thing, is if you see Jake and I commenting from our personal accounts on a social media, you're not going to hear us go, I'm on a Wisconsin sports podcast, I know better than you.
Yeah.
Because there are people that'll do that. Yeah. But I will sit there and I will argue context with you and give you factual stats until I'm blue in the face.
Like, listen, man, like, I'm not going to boast that either. But just knowing in the back of my mind that, like, I've looked stuff up, and when I see people say lies about, like Pat Connaughton is the greatest example of this, right?
Yep,
people are saying lies about Pat Connaughton. It's like, bro, first of all, don't go at my boy, okay? Because now I want to fight you, okay? That's first of all. Second of all, you're lying, and I'm going to tell you why you're lying, and you're going to deny it because nobody likes to admit that they're wrong, myself included. That's fine. I don't like admitting I'm wrong. But you know what? In a sports conversation, if somebody shows me numbers where I'm spewing shit out of my ass, I can't really dispute that. It's kind of done at that point, dude.
Yep.
And if you're still going to dispute that, like, I don't believe you. Okay, so you've never believed in the internet. I'm sorry that you're an idiot.
I did this last week. I literally did this last week. I told people, I'm like, here's where you go to find Pat Connaughton's defensive stats. Here's where you find what teams shot against him. Boom. Here's the stats, facts in your face from the NBA's website.
Yeah.
And people still are going to choose their feelings over facts. Like, I'm sorry. And
like, guys,
I'm going to be completely blatant when it comes to the show. And we actually had this conversation a little bit with Simon yesterday in our Packers chat, but it might alienate some people from following us. It might. And that's something that we have to accept, and we do accept, because the quality of our following is important to us. And it shows up in the things that we post. Like when you scroll through our page, yeah, sure, we might only have 6,500 followers or 6,600 followers. But when we post a Brewers win graphic and it gets 30 interactions on it, it's because the quality of our following is higher because we've aimed it that way. We don't want every single person to follow us just because we want higher follower numbers. Right. You can find pages that have higher following numbers than ours that don't get near the engagement that we do because we've worked hard to create a quality following.
I was going to say, and the quality, man. The quality, honestly, I know you feel this way too, and I tell you this all the time, buddy. When I take my notes, I always feel like I always have this feeling like I'm missing something. For every pregame show, for every draft prep, for every Wednesday show, I always have this feeling in my gut that I'm like, I could have probably wrote down a few more things. And I really want to educate people. And again, we're not saying that we're smarter, but we want to get a smarter fan base. That's our goal, right?
And a more optimistic one.
And if you guys have stuff that we don't know, I'd be glad to read that.
I want to know.
100%. Because I don't want to be out there having somebody else laughing at me saying I don't know anything, right? That's the last thing I want.
And what you're not going to get from us is us talking from our feelings first. You're never going to get us talking from our feelings first.
I'm not going to go too deep in that conversation, but I'm really sick and tired of feelings. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Any claim that we are going to make is going to be backed up by something contextual or statistical.
Agreed.
That's just bottom line.
Sports is about numbers, and if you don't like numbers and you don't like sports, I'm sorry to tell you.
And if you want some context outside the numbers, come watch us on Wednesdays and Fridays.
Yeah, we got you, bro. We got you.
Okay. So getting to today's Brewer game, like I mentioned, the Brewers went with bullpen game. So they started Bryce Wilson, who has been a starter in the past. He was used as a reliever last year, more of a long reliever. Mm-hmm. He retired the first 8 batters he faced en route to 3 2/3 scoreless innings. My guy Brian Hudson came in after that to get the 3rd out of the 4th inning and then pitched a scoreless 5th, scoreless 6th. So he pitched 2 1/3 hitless innings. Did have a walk. Elvis Baguero came in for a scoreless 7th. Abner Uribe came in for a scoreless 8th, which was quite possibly the most electric inning of the game. If you go top and bottom, it absolutely was. Mm-hmm. And then Yoel Payam's got the save. The Brewers, as a bullpen game, gave up 5 hits and 2 walks to a good offense.
Yeah, I like that.
Without Devin Williams.
Right, without our best pitcher.
Without J.B. Bukowskis, without Trevor McGill.
All factual.
And held it down. And Abner Uribe, a day after getting an early game work to, like I said, build some confidence, give him some less pressure work, comes in, gives up a leadoff triple in the top of the 8th inning. Still a 0-0 game. Gives up a leadoff triple. Infielders have to come in because this game's been super tense. 0-0 pitchers duel. Brewers were no hit for almost the entire game so far. And Uribe lets nothing. That dude does not move another step. Because he comes back, he gets a pop-up in the infield, gets a strikeout of Xander Bogaerts, and then gets Fernando Tatis to ground out, which was a really athletic play by Abner Uribe coming off the mound. Jake, I don't know if you've seen video of it. No, but Abner Uribe gets a soft ground ball towards third base, picks it up barehanded and throws to first base off balance and gets Fernando Tatis at first base for the 3rd out of the inning.
Wow, that's impressive.
Dude, like I said, 8th inning was the most electric inning of the game, and it continued in the bottom. So Bryce Terang in the bottom of the 8th gets a single, steals second base. That's aggressive small ball, not sacrifice small ball. I think that's how I'm gonna differentiate that.
I like that.
And then Blake Perkins, a guy that I brought up during the pregame show yesterday, during the show today, that his play has allowed the Brewers to be overly cautious with Christian Yelich. Mm-hmm. He comes through as a right-handed hitter. He primarily bats as a lefty because he's a switch hitter. So Blake Perkins providing some value as a switch hitter here. Batting as a right-handed hitter, hits a single that gets between the shortstop and the third baseman and is soft enough that allows Bryce Terang to score from second base and puts the Brewers up 1-0, which obviously is what the final score ended up being. And in part to Willy Adames just being everywhere in this game. And Jake Bauers at first base making crazy picks. He had like 4 picks today where I was like, damn, that was really nice defense by Jake Bauers. And then Willy Adames, 9 putouts today. 9 outs went through Willy Adames today. That's a third of the outs went through Willy Adames today. And, we already mentioned Abner Uribe, but William Contreras and Sal Frelick's, their hit streaks came to an end today at 12-5, but not a lot of hits going around today.
Yeah.
But bottom line is the Brewers came away with a win. And here's the thing is, sure, the 11-1 games are fun. The 11-5 games are fun. But 1-0 games are kind of fun once in a while, too, especially when you come out on the winning end of it.
For sure.
Like, if you're Michael King for the Padres and you're like, damn, I no-hit them for 6 2/3 innings and we still lost, like, that sucks.
Yeah, that sucks.
But it's a reality of baseball. He was a stud for 7 innings of this game. Until Bryce Terang was like, all right, time to shut that down. And the Brewers came out with a win.
Love it.
Okay, so the Brewers starting not tomorrow, but Friday. They have off tomorrow. They have a 3-game series in St. Louis. and then they start a series with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Next Wednesday, we will have the first 2 games of that series. That is a 4-game series. So we'll have the first half of that. So we're only going to have 5 Brewer games between now and next Wednesday. But, Jake, I don't know if you want to throw a record prediction out there. I mean, Pirates fans were starting to talk kind of out of pocket because they got off to a hot start like they did last year, and now they've lost like 5 games in a row.
I'll say 3 and 2.
Say it. Oh, you wanted to say 4
dude,
and 1.
you saw me.
I saw you loading up for.
I was gearing up for a 5-0, but I was like, you know what?
Oh, okay. I thought you were gearing up for a 4-1. That's what
I was gonna say 5-0, bro. I was gonna go crazy, but I was like, you know what? Let's be real. I'll say 3 and 2. I think they split the first 2 in Pittsburgh, and then you take 2 out of 3, like we always say. Just take 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals, and you go on and live.
Yeah, I'm looking at 2 out of 3 from the Cardinals as well, and then I'm going to take the first 2 from Pittsburgh and then be ready to win the series in Game 3. So that's where I'm at.
I'm with it.
All right, so Jake and I will be back next Wednesday with more Bucks and Brewers. We'll have the first 2 games of the Bucks and Pacers series and these 5 Brewer games. We will also be back on Friday night. Friday night is going to be our live mock draft show for our NFL draft series for 2024. It's going to be our second last Friday show because after the draft, we are moving to Tuesdays for our Packers coverage, so we can be a little earlier in the week, a little bit earlier on our coverage for the Packers, and have a little bit more time during the week to use some of the content that we create there. But other than that, Friday night is our live mock draft, so that's where we kind of flex some of the knowledge that we've discussed from the positions of need for the Packers over the last 5 weeks, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Join us live for that. Comment along some of the picks. We'll definitely do some mock drafts that we'll do with fan comment influence involved. And then other than that, again, check out our pregame show that we did before the Brewers and Padres game yesterday. We put a lot into it. We're really excited about what they can be in the future, especially if we get more time to work on them and be able to put more into them and be able to do more with them in the future. Because like Jake said, it's being students of the game, being able to put a lot more time into individual games and much more zoomed in statistic game by game. We put a lot of stuff out into the Brewers pregame show yesterday, and that's going to be our Patreon subscription going forward. Is going to be those watch parties, so you can sign up for our Patreon now. You get access to our graphics before they get posted on our regular social media pages, and then you get to pick which games we're going to do watch parties for the next month. So right now you can vote on games for May, and people are going to get to pick which games we do the watch parties for, and we'll have the pregame, the postgame shows, and be live during the entire games. So come check us out, and other than that, I will see you Friday night.
I got one thing to say before we get out of here.
All right.
I just want people to realize we're giving you all this information while having full-time jobs and families. If this becomes our full-time job, imagine the stuff that we're going to give you, man. Just imagine. I'm just saying.
I imagine it all the time. The amount of high-quality content that we could pump out working on this 8 hours a day.
Bro, just come check out the Patreon. And I want you guys to have that realization that we're doing this while having families and jobs. So
and hobbies.
Right? Like if we get enough where we can make this our full-time job, we're going to cook.
We'll be majorly cooking. I was cooking on the pregame show yesterday. Imagine if we could do that for like 3 games a week,
bro,
instead of 2 games a month.
Stephen A. Smith will be filet mignon. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Barbecue chicken, like Kendrick Perkins would eat.
Let's go.
All right. See you Friday.
Later, dude.